Running back Rhamondre Stevenson reveals details on the Patriots' new offense. We'll explore here on Patscast. Welcome to Patscast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Rhamondre Stevenson and Joshua Uche both made themselves available for a media presser today. And one noteworthy point is it's no longer Josh Uche, it's now Joshua Uche, so we'll be referring to him as Joshua from now on. But I found the Rhamondre Stevenson press conference a little bit more interesting because he really revealed a lot of details, especially from a player, about what this new Alex Van Pelt run offense is going to look like. And long story short, we know it's going to be a lot different. We know it's not going to be traditional gap schemes, power runs, what we've seen in New England for 20 plus years. It's going to be very outside zone heavy. And the Patriots did try to do this a couple of seasons ago. Remember, they made Matt Patricia the de facto offensive coordinator, and he wanted to simplify and modernize the offense and really depend on the outside run and bootlegs and play action, all those things modern NFL teams like the Niners and the Rams do, and it just went terribly. And the issue was, whenever the Patriots did run an outside zone, the defense would rip through it quickly, and they would lose about 5 to 6 yards. So there is a real learning curve to running an outside zone scheme, and luckily Alex Van Pelt actually knows what he's doing, right? They ran it very well in Cleveland this past season. They relied heavily on the running game, and Joe Flacco was able to run a number of bootlegs, was very successful in play action, and was able to throw deep down the field, which is also going to be a major change with Mac Jones no longer on the roster, and now we have guys like Jacoby Brissett, Drake May, and Joe Milton, who could all be a potential quarterback this season, depending on how training camp goes. And don't forget about Bailey Zappi, but he's a little bit more Mac Jones-like, although he definitely has a stronger arm than Mac Jones, just not the strength as those other three quarterbacks. But Rhamondre Stevenson said, we didn't really run too much outside zone last year. Outside zone is actually the play you have to know how to run. It's not just another play. Like a gap scheme, you can go out there, just run the play. But outside zone, you need reps at it just to know how the linemen are getting off and just their angles. So we're going to work on it all throughout OTAs and camp. And it is a difference, and even though the offense will be so-called simplified compared to the Perkins, Josh McDaniels, more complex offense where they're constantly calling audibles at the line, it will be simplified in how they call plays. But the wide zone, it's different because in straight gap schemes, offensive linemen, they know who they're going to block, they know the gap they need to create, the running back knows where he needs to go. This involves offensive linemen moving laterally, creating space in different areas, creating the correct angles, and then the running back can kind of pick and choose where that gap comes from. And you can create massive openings that way. It's just when we saw Matt Patricia, who had no idea what he was doing, Kendrick Bourne literally is trying to teach him in the locker room how to run it, and Matt Patricia doesn't want anything to do with it, ends up putting him on the bench. It was a real mess, and that is the risk with it, right? Because with the power run, you screw up, you only lose like a yard or two, right? But with a wide zone gap scheme, or a wide zone heavy scheme, defenses can poke through it right away because the offensive linemen are moving in a direction. They're protecting a part of the field, and if one defender gets through immediately, which they often do if you mess it up, you lose like 10 yards sometimes. Like, it can be really challenging, and hopefully the Patriots will be able to figure it out. Stevenson added that he's very optimistic about Alex Van Pelt and what he's incorporating. He said his favorite moment is all the runs he's putting in, to be honest. Just how he's trying to scheme them up, scheme the runs up, make everything run action, pass action. Everything looks the same, but they're varied. And look, Stevenson ran a lot of outside zone at Oklahoma, but did acknowledge that there is going to be a major learning curve here. Patriots this past season kind of went back to the old school way of doing things. Matt Patricia even went back to the old school way of doing things. That's why the Patriots were actually in the playoff picture heading into the final week of the season a couple years ago. We all thought it was a disaster under Matt Patricia, but they started the wide zone and didn't work, and they kind of went back to the old school way of doing things, and the Patriots were in the playoff race right until the end, as dysfunctional as that offense may have been. I mean, it was really the defense getting pick sixes like every game. That's why the Patriots were still in it. But Bill O'Brien went back to the power run. He did run some inside zone, and that was actually one of the few strengths the Patriots had this past season on offense. So I would expect to see that a little bit as well. But it's going to look a lot different. A lot of bootlegs, a lot of play actions. And whether you are throwing Drake May out there in week one, whether he does win the job in training camp, he's going to be handing the ball off a lot because that's just the way Alex Van Pelt works. It starts with the run game. As West Coast offenses often do, the passing game is really just an extension of the run game, a lot of quick, short passes, but you can create a lot of deep throws off of that, particularly off bootlegs and play action, and that's really where Drake May, assuming he develops the way we want him to, really can thrive. And now you got receivers like Jalen Polk and Javon Baker out there who are really going to be able to catch those downfield balls. Drake May, and he said this before, and you go watch his highlights, and it rings true. He loves throwing deep balls up the middle, and that really is where Jalen Polk is going to thrive, and Javon Baker could be that true boundary X wide receiver who's going to be able to extend the defense and hopefully be able to make plays downfield along the sideline. And then you take those two guys, they're going deep. That's what they did in college, and then you can really rely on guys like Demario Douglas, like KJ Osborne, who they brought in from Minnesota. Maybe Juju Smith-Schuster. We'll see if he's still on the roster. But they're going to be able to play that slot receiver role. Don't forget about Kendrick Bourne, who can do all of it. They're going to be able to catch those short 5 to 10 yard passes and hopefully get some yards after the catch a little bit after. Certainly KJ Osborne can get some yards after the catch. And then there's also the seam routes, the tight ends, and things like that with guys like Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, who are going to be very successful doing that. At least they've been successful doing that in the past. They really are building an offense that is going to allow guys like Drake May, Joe Milton, Jacoby Brissett, who's worked with Alex Van Pelt before and did a very good job with him, really building an opportunity for them to thrive in this offense. Excited to see how it plays out. It's going to be a lot of deception, a lot of things we are not used to seeing in New England, but it really starts with, can they make the wide zone actually work? Because I'm not as optimistic after what I saw with Matt Patricia. The difference is Alex Van Pelt actually knows what he's doing. So we'll see how it plays out. Training camp is going to be a strong indicator on how it's working out, but it's going to be a learning curve. They're going to screw this up a lot in the preseason, and we're going to go, okay, this offense looks terrible. Really, week 1 through week 4, that's when they start to implement it. And we're at the midpoint of the season, and they're running it like the Niners. Then we're off and running. And Drake May, whether he plays or not, is really going to be set to have a successful young career at the very least when he takes over the starting role. Now, like I mentioned, Joshua Uche had his own press conference and talked about why he chose to come back to New England. He signed a deal that was really only about $3.5 million. I guess it's worth up to about $8 million, but had an opportunity to take greater money somewhere else, but decided to come back to New England. Uche said, "It was interesting. I had a lot of people calling me crazy, a lot of people focusing on the financial parts of the decision, but I feel like the team that gave me an opportunity, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. I can't envision myself playing for another team. However that shakes out, I know at the end of the day, the ball was in my court, and this is the dream that I wanted to fulfill, to be a Patriot." And he wouldn't have done this if he didn't like Gerard Mayo. And the Patriots have brought back all the foundational pieces they needed to bring back this offseason to at least keep the ball rolling with the guys that work. And I'm very optimistic about the future. If the Patriots can look like a halfway decent team this season, Gerard Mayo really builds up his reputation, not inside the locker room, because we know that reputation is good by all the players that have returned. But if he builds up that reputation throughout the rest of the NFL, then the Patriots aren't going to strike out in free agency for guys like Calvin Ridley like they did this offseason. They're going to get a lot of interest from players. And look, we know the wide receiver position is something that we got a lot of B+ guys. We got some young talent in there now, but at some point they're going to want to bring in that true number 1 wide receiver. Maybe Javon Baker becomes that guy, but maybe they'll actually have a shot at some of those free agents if they become at least a middle-of-the-road team, if they're at least vying for a playoff position late in the season. We know they have a good defense. If the offense is halfway competent, then they are contending for a playoff position at the very least. And that's going to be attractive to free agents because I think Jerod Mayo is a guy that people do want to play for. Certainly the players that came back have said nothing but great things about him. And if the rest of the league catches on, then the Patriots aren't going to have the same challenges of bringing in big-name free agents. And yeah, I know there's issues with New England. I mean, they're in rebuilding mode right now. Hopefully they're not considered as much of a rebuilding team in the 2025 offseason. Yeah, there's the Massachusetts tax, the millionaires tax, the cold weather. There's always going to be things that the Patriots struggle with in terms of attracting free agents. But Josh Uche lays it out here that he really wanted to come back to the Patriots, not just because it's the team that drafted him, but because he likes the direction that the team is going. And yeah, he's only on a one-year deal right now. It's kind of a prove-it situation. He's going to play a lot more than he did this past season and the past few seasons. But we'll see if Uche returns on a long-term extension afterward or if he cashes in and goes somewhere else. But overall, I think if Jerod Mayo has a decent team, then the Patriots are going to be an attractive destination. And certainly the guys that worked with him like him a lot. And people don't know a lot about Mayo. That's the thing. He's been in New England his entire career, both as a player and a coach. But the spotlight's going to be on him now. And if he does a good job, and if players say nice things about him, well, they're going to be able to get attractive free agents in the future. Let's hope it works out. We'll be back throughout the rest of this week with more Patriots coverage. You're going to want to subscribe to Pat's Cast. You're watching on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you're optimistic about the way the offense is built out and Alex Van Pelt's new scheme. Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We'll be back throughout the rest of the week.
Going hard, gonna break the mold. Pat's Cast, let the story unfold. Offense shifting into a whole new scene. Outside zone scheme, making defenses extreme. Rhamondre Stevenson, running wild and free. Drake May, taking it to a whole new degree. The Patriots rising.